Welcome back to Kickback. My name is Ben, and we are proudly presented by CMHA, Brant, Haldeman, Norfolk. Today we are at Hudson Public, downtown Brantford, and I'm joined by Sean. Sean, thank you so much for joining us, making the trip from KW, and I just really appreciate it. A wonderful member of the Rogers family that always reaches out to support Kickback, and we've had conversations in previous years, and I just really appreciate your support.
My pleasure being here, Ben. I love that you're still doing this after all these years, and any way I can help, I will always try to help.
Right, and so Sean, you reached out and you said, you know what, Ben, I've got an idea for a segment that I'd really like to speak about and to share about. What's your idea that you wanted to talk about? Can you share it?
So I thought when we're talking about mental health and men's mental health and overall mental health, I work in the public eye, obviously, as the TV host for Kitchen Arrangers. I've been with Rogers TV coming up on 22 years now, and that's how you and I got to know each other. Anyone in the public eye becomes a little more exposed to harassment. I'm sure it's happened to you. I know it's happened to me, but I want to try and be an advocate or a proponent for anti-harassment in terms of anyone in the public eye. And I don't mean just television, right? It can be anyone in the public eye. Sports, it can be elected officials, let's use sports as an example. I work with the Kitchen Arrangers, right? When I think about that, there's been harassment of myself, my broadcast colleagues, opponents, broadcast colleagues, players on the ice, coaches, officials, game staff. People will go online and criticize the DJ for playing the wrong song at the wrong time, or the goal judge for turning a light on and a human being making a mistake. And it gets, anyone can criticize, but when criticism becomes harassment, I think it's a problem. And I think that the online anonymity of it kind of removes the accountability portion of it. So I think people should be accountable for their actions, and I think that harassment just shouldn't be something, because I'm not going to be preachy and say you should or shouldn't do something, even though I'd love to say that, but harassment does have an effect on someone's mental health. So while you may be completely correct in your criticism of an event that happened or something that you didn't like, the way you approach that can directly affect someone's mental health, and that's why I wanted to reach out to you.
Right, and it's really, and first thank you for bringing this subject to light, and it's really a ripple effect, right?
Absolutely.
Where it can start with something really small, and then it can get out of control.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you take an example of if you're driving and someone cuts you off, you might honk on your horn. But if you're walking on the sidewalk and someone walks in front of you, you're not just going to yell in their ear, because they'll turn around and they'll face you. So you have that cloak of anonymity in your car, and sometimes you have that online, and people will post things under fake names or won't. Anyway, the point is, there's a difference between, let's use myself as the example, because there's a lot of people out there that don't like me, Ben, and that's okay. But there's a lot of people that do like me and love what I do with Rogers TV, and I really appreciate that. But for that pocket that doesn't like me, that's fine. You might not like my questions, you might not like my crazy suits, you might not like my orange glasses on a certain day. Those are all okay. And if you don't like my question, I don't think Sean Fafaro should have asked that question, that's okay. But sending me a message to say, you're overweight, or you're ugly, or you should do this to yourself, or like these horrible, horrible things that people will send you, that's where things cross the line. So where do you draw the line between criticism and harassment? That's just my own personal experience.
Right, and I think the line that conversation probably starts at the point of, is it something that you would say to somebody's face?
Sure. And I think that's something that applies across the board. There's a Waterloo Regional Councillor, Colleen James, who introduced something just I think a couple of months ago called the Elect Respect Motion to prevent harassment of elected officials. When you see an elected official who may do a social media post and limit comments on it, well, the reason they're limiting the comments isn't because you're silencing someone, it's because they've been exposed to such a high level of harassment that sometimes it borders on criminality. So sometimes it's just protective.
Right, and I think it's important to remember that we're all human.
Yeah.
Right, and we all have different levels of what we can take, and that keyboard warrior, anonymity.
Anonymity.
That's the word. Yeah, thank you. That opens the door up for people to feel like they are invincible.
Sure.
And I can't imagine the bombardment that our elected officials, just what they hear, and people forget that we're human. and we make mistakes, and this is it. But I can't imagine to be constantly bombarded. And I mean, to bring it back to hockey, the Brantford Bulldogs are here, you're with the Kitchener Rangers, and some of the things that I hear in the crowd of what's being yelled at, let alone the head coach or the refs, but the players that are maybe 16 years old, and in some cases maybe 15 to
very
19.
rare cases, usually 16 to 20.
Right, and it's just like, I can't imagine, would you tell a high school age kid those things?
No. And sometimes, again, someone on the ice might have done something egregious and maybe they're worthy of criticism. And if you're in the school of thought that's, I bought my ticket, I can say what I want, I don't really think that allows you to say whatever you want, because as we said, there's a cost to that, right? And I know that there's a Kickback is having somewhat of a focus on men's health this year, and this is hockey, Ben. This is this is macho, this is tough, this is have a thick skin, this is don't be a snowflake, don't be a, back in my day, we just used to do this, and we didn't play with helmets, and we didn't play, well, it's not that time anymore. Right. It's not Slapshot anymore. It's different, and I'm not saying that the verbal element of the game can't be part of the game, right? But there has to be a line. And again, what is that line between macho toughness and chirping that's acceptable within the lines, and a personal attack that sits with someone after the fact? If you're trying to use a verbal element of the game to get someone off their game, to perhaps turn over the puck, okay, there's an art form to that within the parameters of the game. But if you're doing something that sticks with someone after the fact that affects their mental health, and you're talking about a league that in the past 15 years has had a couple of rather high-profile suicides. So mental health is a focus for the league, and I just think everybody that works in this league, everybody that ever goes out, and again, I'll just stick with the OHL example for a moment. Every player that goes out, every official that goes out, every event staff that goes out, every broadcaster that works it, every single one of them approaches it, I'm trying to do a good job today. Right. Yeah. I'm trying to do my best. No referee ever goes out and says, I'm gonna crap the bed today,
really gonna screw
so
this
that
up.
Dave in section 4 will get mad at me and call me names. No, they're trying to do their best. Mistakes happen. Everybody's human. Right. You look at a baseball game that has hundreds of pitches. Well, you can see with the box that umpires miss the pitch. Right. But if you want to criticize an umpire for that, that's okay. If you think that person should be fired because you're sitting on your couch making a comment about that, I think there's a disparity there.
Right, and where do you think that line is for people to be able to self-reflect?
I don't know. I guess that depends on the individual, right? Because there's a lot of people out there that can't identify what can and can't be said, right? It's I want to say whatever I want to say without any accountability. And I don't think if someone has that mindset, you can tap into that mindset and educate them otherwise. Right. And education, I think, is the thing. This isn't about pointing the finger, no, you can't do that. Mm-hmm. This is, here's why you shouldn't do that. Right. What if somebody did this to you? What if somebody did this to your son or daughter? How would you like how that sits with them inside? I'll let you know that the things that I've dealt with, I can't talk too much about it, have resulted in some criminal charges. Mm-hmm. Some of the harassment that I've received has resulted in criminal charges of people that have uttered threats against me and criminal harassment. And that takes a toll. Right. That takes a toll. I've been in pretty intensive therapy for over a year to deal with some things coming out of that. But I'm not isolated in that sense. I mean, I hope that every official and game staff and player is dealing with their own mental health the same way.
Right, and for somebody maybe that is at home watching right now and they're dealing with harassment of any form, what would you say to them?
I would say to them, understand what your boundaries are, understand what you will accept in your life and what you will not accept. You do not have to have a thick skin because somebody tells you have to have a thick skin. Right. I didn't become a basketball official because I didn't think my skin was thick enough for it, because I was going to be giving people technicals all over the place. Right. Doesn't mean I'm soft, that just means I knew my limitations and I knew my boundaries. So you don't have to accept what people throw at you just because they say it's okay to throw at you. So I guess that's my biggest advice, is understand your boundaries and what is acceptable to you.
Sean, so I think that, I don't want to blame social media, but I feel like
blame away,
right?
Yeah.
Online world, but I really feel like it gives people, especially people in the public eye, it gives the general public easy access to those individuals to be able to create situations where harassment can escalate, or those normal kind of everyday chirps that are part of the hockey world can quickly escalate into something much more because it's so accessible.
Well, I think part of that too is, and I know that you will post as Ben Strasser and I will post as Sean Ferfaro, but if Jimmy Dragonfly decides he wants to criticize your blue suit today, there's no accountability because you don't know who that is, nor will you ever need to know who that is. So the internet provides that cloak of anonymity that gives people, it empowers them to say what they want to say whenever they want to say without any consequences. So I feel like, yeah, blame away. I mean, I don't think that that's the entire mechanism of it, but if you're predisposed to hurl harassment and insults at somebody, we'll use the term harassment. I keep saying that, but it's verbal abuse. It's verbal assault. There's criminal behavior. If you're someone that's predisposed to do that, and you have an avenue over here where you can't do that, and you have an avenue over here where you can do that, and you want to do it, well, you're going to take this avenue. I'd like to think, for the most part, the incredible majority of the population stays in this lane, but that much more minor but louder minority heads directly to this lane, and that's where those issues come from.
Right, and I think it was beautiful what you said earlier about the fact of that there's not one line in the sand that all of us fit into. There's no, you need thick skin. There's no, like, that doesn't exist. It's what is Ben comfortable with? Where is my personal line? And it has nothing to do with maybe what society specifically could put out there as, okay, we're men, we should be strong and we don't need to hold these things. And so I just think that it's just powerful for individuals maybe right now that are dealing with maybe more what would be deemed as like minor forms of harassment. But if it's major for you, then that is major and it needs to be dealt with.
Absolutely, and whatever affects you, whatever affects your mental health is what affects your mental health. That's your lived experience. If something that affects my mental health isn't a drop off your back, and vice versa, that doesn't negate what I feel or what you feel, right? You may have somebody, and I've never grown a beard, right? But maybe somebody says something about your beard sometime personally, like a personal attack on your appearance, which I've received in the past. Nobody's ever said anything about my beard because I can't grow a beard, Ben. But I'm saying, but it doesn't change the fact that something might land for you differently than for me. Like, I might not care about this, but you might care about this. And your boundaries matter. And if Jimmy Dragonfly thinks it shouldn't matter to you, that doesn't matter to that's his world and his boundaries versus yours.
Right, and I think people need to understand that everybody we are all navigating something one way or another. If doing this for 10 years has proved anything, it's that everyone is dealing with some form of mental health issue, whether it's personally directed with them or it's family or friends, whoever it is, we're all dealing with something. And that one comment that comes out of left field from somebody, or something that's yelled from the crowd or is directed at like a public official, like at council on the Tuesday nights or whatever, that could be what puts them over the edge. Right? And I think people need to be aware of how much their words whether it be verbal or whether it be typing, can have an effect on people.
And I think it's cliche. A, you're right, yes. And B, I think it's cliche. We say it a lot. You never know what somebody's going through. Be kind. That's just kind of an overall good human mindset.
Should be normal.
I feel like that should be the default, but that's what you and I think. But while you may say there's that one comment on a Tuesday night council, you don't know what that person's going through. Maybe that person has had an incredibly traumatic experience at home that week, and they're fragile to begin with. So maybe that comment wouldn't put them over the edge one day, but it might put them over the edge another day. Like, you look at my broadcast and you're gonna see a guy in a turquoise suit or a pink suit smiling and cracking jokes and being goofy on there. But there's been days, Ben, where I've been dealing with stuff at home, and we talked about this on Kickback a couple years ago. I didn't know that I could go to the rink and do a broadcast, and I needed a safe space to go to because I was very emotional and I wasn't sure I could be on camera. And I got through it, and it was great to be there. But again, you don't know what people are dealing with. Just because you see somebody happy and smiling on the screen doesn't mean that that's their day. That means they're trying to bring you a telecast so you can enjoy that show tonight. because that's what their job is and that's what they want to do that day. But if they don't show up that day because something's going on, that's okay too.
Right.
So again, it's cliche, you never know what someone's going through, but I never want to hurl something at somebody with the thought that that might stick with them for 5 minutes, an hour, a week, a month, a year. I can remember things that someone said to me 30 years ago that hurt, right?
Right.
That's we're humans.
Right, exactly. And I think that it's taking that moment that I think fortunately a lot of the individuals that are maybe creating these issues don't necessarily have maybe the ability to, like, naturally to be able to self-reflect and to take that moment of, before I say something, I'm thinking of when I talk to my son. Like, Theo, that's not how you should be talking to person X, Y, or Z, or you should be playing nicely with your friends. He doesn't necessarily have that filter developed yet, where sometimes just as like a 5-year-old boy, stuff's just gonna come out.
Sure, the filter between here and here is developed over time.
Right, yeah.
And sometimes it recesses over time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think too, again, I think that's just part of being a good, decent human.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you, I remember a long time ago, and I don't remember who told me this, especially in broadcasting, and it applies really, really well to social media, and I try to follow it for the most part, Ben, but I don't always follow it, but it's great advice. Ask yourself 3 questions. Does this need to be said? Mm-hmm. Does this need to be said right now? And does this need to be said right now by me?
Right.
And if you can't say yes to all 3, maybe just don't say it.
That's
right?
fair, yeah.
And I try to use that. I try to use that as much as I can. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of times the filter between here and here just becomes impulsive and throw it out. And I don't really care what the results are. And some people, and I've had some people say some things, and I've responded to them, or I've said, I don't really want to engage with you anymore. Right. I didn't really like what you said. I found it offensive. Mm-hmm. And I've had apologies, sincere apologies for it. I didn't think about that. I just said it in the moment, and I think you're right, and I probably should have. If more people would think like that, I think we'd be in a better place. But instead, it's spew vitriol, and I'll go that blunt with it, and then double down when you get called on it.
Right.
So.
Well, so earlier you mentioned about criminal harassment.
Yeah.
For you specifically, and without getting into any details or specifics, was it hard for you to be able to get to that level of, was it an escalation that happened very quickly, and was it something that you, like, to be able to get, like, to be a criminal piece, to get the police involved?
Sure. So I'll be vague about this, but because there's still things being dealt with in the court system. But there were a couple times when it was clear criminal. It should have involved the police, but because I had some empathy for the individual's mental health struggles, I chose not to. I didn't think that was the right course. And eventually you have to. After multiple instances of looking the other way, you eventually have to. And it was kind of out of my hands once I made a phone call about something, and someone else made a phone call on my behalf. Then it became criminal, and I didn't have much of a choice, but I also chose that at this point I have to do something about it. And I don't think I can advocate for everybody else, but I can only advocate for myself. Right. And at that point, my safety, the safety of my family, had to be prioritized ahead of my empathy for someone's other mental health struggles, and I had to put my mental health first.
Right, and I think that being able to take in and think about, for the viewers at home, think about the people that are out in the public, maybe even hosting community events, or the elected officials, or the people that are in power in one way or another, but remembering that they're all human. Yeah. Remembering that they all have families, remember that they're all dealing with 1,001 things, and so approaching them with kindness instead of the vitriol, and just something that I try and live with is just always assume the best.
Yeah, that's easy for you and I. It's not easy for everybody, right? Yeah. I mean, if you look at any Facebook group, whether it's a food group, whether it's a driving group, whether it's a living in Brantford, whether it's a caught in Guelph, all these, when you click on the comment section, you need to brace yourself for the things you're going to see, and the way people attack each other and are so aggressive with their words towards each other when you don't know somebody. Right. I mean, most of the time, a Facebook group will have a rule to be kind to other individuals, but unless you have an administrator that's willing to view everything, that's really never going to happen. Like there's a Kitchener Rangers fan group, and in there, again, I made that joke off the top about the DJ played the goal song at the wrong time, and someone insisted that person should be fired. Well, if you ever make a mistake, have you ever made a mistake at your job?
Yeah,
sure.
totally. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
I don't want to be fired for it, but after 22 years, maybe you get a little bit of grace to make a mistake because we're all humans. But the guy on the couch that says you should be fired, that's right. You have to be able to roll that off your back. Maybe you have to have a thick skin, as they say.
Right.
But I mean, does this need to be said? Does this need to be said right now? Does this need to be said right now by me? What does it matter to you?
Right. Sean, what do you want people to know about harassment?
I think before you say something, maybe my best advice would be think about how this is going to sit in the psyche of another human being. Think about how this, if you have empathy for other human beings and their lived experience, how will this sit? If you don't like, take politics. Let's just take it out of sports for a minute. You've got one side and you've got the other side. Let's just pick the liberals and the conservatives all of a sudden. A liberal can talk to a conservative and have a conversation about things. But a liberal doesn't have to throw an insult at a conservative, and a conservative doesn't have to throw an insult at a liberal to get their point across. There's no talking, it's an attack. So I guess that's the biggest advice. If you hurl attacks at people, you're probably not going to get what you want, which I'm guessing if you want to vocalize something and have someone hear it and absorb it, attacking is not the way to do it. There's a way to find it with words, but words can be threats as well. So, you have to find that line.
Right. Well, I just feel like so many people have lost the ability to listen and to listen to understand instead of listening to responding. And I think that is a big piece of particularly in politics, right, is that everybody it's the left or the right and we just attack, right? There's the middle ground is, I also think that the minority are the loudest and the ones that are they're throwing those hurls and attacks and the vitriol is coming from the minority and they just happen to be the loudest, unfortunately. And the majority is open to having those conversations, but unfortunately they are not as vocal about their pieces because of the attacks that come from others.
Yeah, and I think you hit it right on the nail right on the head there. It's that ability to listen. One of the things I offer, and let's bring it back to sports for a minute, I have a weekly show called This Week in Rangers Nation, and one of the things I say on that show is, let me know what you think of the show. And I know that's a dangerous thing to say, right? Especially with a passionate fan base. Let me know what you think, good, bad, or otherwise, and I'll listen. And I do listen, and I have people stop me at the rink, and they say things, and they're like, well, I think you should do more of this, and I really like this, or I don't like this. And I'll listen to those. Because that's respectful conversation, and I actually want to hear. And despite the fact that I've done PA of 3,000 games and 500 TV broadcasts, I'm never at a ceiling. I'm always trying to get better every show, every telecast, and I'm always trying to learn, and it's self-evaluating. So I'm open to that stuff. I'm not someone that won't listen, and that ability to listen is where you grow. But I don't want to listen if you're going to harass.
Right.
I guess that's, if you're going to harass someone, they'll never want to listen. And I guess that's maybe the punctuation mark on this conversation is if you're going to harass someone, you will never have them want to listen to you.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Sean. I really appreciate you taking the time.